There is a moment in every path where something shifts. It's not loud. There is a moment in every path where something shifts. It's not loud. It doesn't break things. It doesn't scream like failure or sting like rejection. It whispers, "You've done enough. You've grown. You're not like the others anymore." And because you've fought, suffered, changed, and endured, you believe it. You believe you've crossed some invisible threshold, and now you can loosen your grip. The books gather dust. The journal pages go blank. The rituals you once clung to become optional. And without warning, growth dies. Not in chaos, but in comfort. No alarms, no collapse. Just slow erosion and silence. This is the most dangerous moment in any inner journey. Not when you're struggling. Not when you're failing. But when you start thinking you've become something. Because the moment you believe you've arrived, you stop moving. And that's when decay begins. Quietly, invisibly. We think arrogance looks like pride, ego, or loud declarations. But sometimes, it wears the mask of peace. I've healed. I've evolved. I'm not who I used to be. And maybe you're right. But the real question is, are you still becoming, or just defending who you've become? Musashi, the undefeated swordsman, won over 60 duels. Yet at the end of his life, he wrote, "I have not yet reached the way." Nietzsche warned of the dangers of the last man, the one who survives everything, only to become tamed, safe, average. And Jung said that the greatest shadow comes not from weakness, but from the illusion of wholeness. So what are you telling yourself right now? That you've grown enough, that you're ahead of others, that you're spiritually awake, emotionally aware, mentally sharp? Because the mind loves identity. Even if it kills you, it would rather hold a title than chase transformation. And here's the tragedy. Most people don't stop growing because they're weak. They stop because they think they're strong. They trade the pursuit of truth for the comfort of certainty. They stop asking questions and start protecting answers. They stop exploring and start performing. Growth doesn't die in failure. It dies in your decision that you've learned enough. But what if that moment, the one you're in right now, isn't mastery, but stagnation disguised as arrival? What if everything you've built is now the weight that holds you in place? You were evolving. Now you're maintaining. You were curious. Now you're certain. You were humble. Now you're justified. And the shift was so subtle, you didn't even notice. So ask yourself, when was the last time you admitted you were wrong? Not in theory, but in your soul. When did you last feel ignorant, small, uncertain? Not because you failed, but because you saw how much more there is. That feeling, the sharp edge of not knowing, is where life begins again. The rest is just repetition. We often confuse movement with evolution. You read, you work, you speak in better language now. You reference Jung, quote Nietzsche, meditate daily, and it all feels like growth. But what if it's not? What if it's performance, dressed as transformation? What if you're no longer learning, just rehearsing who you think you are? There's a subtle addiction in the self-development world. The addiction to progress as identity. Not to become free, but to look refined. Not to dissolve the ego, but to upgrade it. You don't seek depth anymore. You seek confirmation. You're not a student. You're a brand. And it's here, in the space between honesty and performance, that growth begins to rot. But no one sees it. Because, from the outside, you look wise. You speak calmly. You're healed. You're balanced. Yet the fire is gone. You don't feel wonder anymore. You don't get undone by new ideas. You only chase what fits your current self-image. And that's when the soul starts suffocating. Because the soul doesn't care how advanced you sound. It wants truth. And truth doesn't flatter you. It tears you apart. This is what most people never realize. Growth is not always graceful. Real growth feels like breaking. Real growth insults who you thought you were. But you've built too much on top of that version of you. Your social circle knows this version. Your audience follows this version. Even your inner voice defends this version. So what happens when a new truth contradicts it? You reject it. Not because it's false, but because it threatens what you've built. This is why people plateau. Not from lack of will, but from fear of loss. Loss of image, loss of control, loss of identity. And ironically, that's where true growth always lives. In the places you're not willing to go. Growth demands death. The death of identities. The death of identities. The death of your comfort in being better. But most people don't want death. They want affirmation. They want to be told they're on the right path. They want their current beliefs to be applauded. They want their pain to be validated, not interrogated. They want a gentler mirror, not a sharper sword. But the mirror Musashi held up wasn't gentle. It was carved in solitude, held with silence, and aimed at his own soul. He didn't ask himself how much he'd grown. He asked how much truth he could withstand. So now I ask you, are you willing to question the very self you've built? Are you willing to be a beginner again, even if it means destroying the image you fought so hard to create? If not, be careful, because growth doesn't stop with a crash. It ends in a quiet room, where nothing is wrong, but everything has stopped moving. And you, the student, have quietly become the statue. Most people never see it coming, because it doesn't feel like collapse. It feels like stability. It feels like peace. You're not struggling anymore. You've cut toxic people out. You've simplified your routines. You don't chase highs. You stay grounded. You've arrived at a version of yourself that feels complete. But something isn't right. The days blur. The work feels empty, even when it's efficient. The words you speak sound true, but flat. And in quiet moments, something hollow echoes inside you. You stopped growing, but no alarms went off, because nothing broke. And that's the danger. Real collapse doesn't always look like chaos. It looks like comfort that calcifies, like a castle so fortified. Nothing gets in, not even light. Philosophers warned of this. Kafka called it the locked room you built yourself. Nietzsche called it becoming the dragon you once set out to slay. Jung called it inflation, when your ego expands to fit a truth you haven't earned. And Musashi, he just trained, even after 60 victories, even after mastery. He never let the voice say, "You're done," because he knew peace is seductive, and peace without hunger is stagnation. What most people think is balance is just motionless pride. They stop listening, they stop learning, and worst of all, they stop questioning themselves. That's how the death of growth begins. Not in failure, but in agreement with a life too small for your potential. You settle and call it wisdom. You plateau and call it maturity. You avoid discomfort and call it alignment. But beneath the language, you're shrinking. Because here's the brutal truth. If nothing is challenging you, you're not at peace. You're asleep. And sleep feels safe. But dreams don't change you. Only waking does. So look at your routines. Look at your beliefs. Look at the person you've become. When was the last time you felt resistance? When was the last time you had to grow? Not by choice, but by necessity. If you can't remember, then your greatest threat isn't failure. It's comfort. Because growth doesn't require suffering, but it always requires tension. And without that tension, you forget how to stretch. You forget how to reach. You forget how to be alive. Musashi understood this. He walked alone, slept on floors, owned nothing, fought everyone, not for glory, but to stay awake. So ask yourself, what are you doing right now that actually costs you something? Not in time, not in effort, but in self. If the answer is nothing, then the death of your growth is already underway, and it won't end with a fall. It'll end with a quiet nod, a satisfied smile, and a soul that never touched what it was made for. There is a moment in every person's journey when they must face a terrible question. Not am I succeeding, not am I doing better than before, but something deeper, darker. Have I started lying to myself? Because after a certain point in your path, when you've read the books, done the inner work, spoken the right words, it's no longer the world you need to overcome. It's you, your illusions, your self-image, your desire to appear finished. And that's the most dangerous trap of all, because growth loves hunger, but image loves control. It wants you to look wise, sound composed, act unshaken. It wants you to be respected more than challenged. But Musashi didn't live to be admired. He lived to stay true, even if it meant destroying the person he was yesterday. This is the mirror you avoid, not the one that reflects your progress, but the one that shows what you've stopped questioning. You used to chase discomfort. Now you curate your environment. You used to beg for truth. Now you seek confirmation. You used to be raw, open, messy. Now you are polished and lifeless. It's not that you failed, it's that you froze. You're not regressing, you're not evolving. You're preserving a version of yourself that once grew and now simply maintains. And yet deep down, you know there's a hunger that never left. You've just learned to numb it with identity. You say things like, "This is who I am now. This works for me. I don't need to prove anything." But what if that's the exact moment you stopped becoming? What if mastery isn't about certainty, but constant demolition? Jung once wrote, "You must give up the life you planned, to have the life that is waiting for you. But to do that, you have to kill your favorite self, the one that gets applause, the one that knows the answers, the one that stopped looking." And that is the cost of real growth. Letting go of the person that knows, because the second you feel like a teacher, you must return to the posture of a student. The second you feel aligned, you must ask what parts of you are resisting disruption. And the second you feel like you've done the work, you must ask, what am I still blind to? Musashi never clung to a fixed style. He studied every school, adapted to every battle, discarded what no longer worked. He refused to be boxed in, even by his own genius. That's the example. Not brilliance, not balance, but relentless self-abandonment in service of becoming more. So now the mirror is in front of you, but this time it doesn't reflect your face. It reflects your fear. The fear of undoing yourself, the fear of letting go, the fear of starting again when everyone thinks you've already arrived. That's the next gate. And the question is not, are you willing? It's, will you do it alone, in silence, without being seen? Because no one claps for the one who dares to begin again. But that's the only one who's truly free. The true warrior doesn't die in battle. He dies when he stops learning. And if you've made it this far, through the silence, the erosion, the image, the fear, you're standing at the edge of a choice. Not between success and failure, not between growth and decline, but between continuing and beginning again. Because real growth is not a straight path, it's a spiral. Every return brings you back to the same place, but at a deeper level. And at every turn, the temptation appears. You know enough now. You've changed enough. You've gone far enough. But truth doesn't care how far you've come. It only asks, will you kneel again? Not in defeat, but in reverence. Will you sit once more before the unknown? Will you read as if you've never read before? Will you listen without preparing your response? Will you train like your life depends on it? Because spiritually, it does. Miyamoto Musashi lived this. At 60 years old, undefeated, renowned, feared, he wrote, "I have not yet reached the way." He didn't say this because he lacked knowledge. He said it because he had destroyed every illusion of arrival. That's the secret every true seeker eventually uncovers. The master isn't the one who knows. It's the one who never stops kneeling at the altar of unknowing. Growth, at its highest form, is not a mountain you climb. It's a fire you feed, knowing it will consume you again and again. There is no final form, No perfect self. No endpoint where your mind, your heart, your spirit can finally rest. There is only practice. There is only return. There is only the way and your willingness to walk it, one humbled step at a time. So let go of being wise. Let go of being ahead. Let go of defending what you've already learned. And pick up the empty cup again. Pick up the old book with new eyes. Pick up the same truth with a softer hand. Pick up the tools that once shaped you, not to repeat them, but to be reshaped by them. Because you don't grow once, you grow forever. If you're willing, not willing to ascend, but willing to surrender, to be broken again, to be taught again, to be cut open by the blade of truth again, and still say thank you. So now, ask yourself, without fear, without defense, what would I still be learning if I didn't need anyone to see me doing it? And deeper still, what am I pretending to have outgrown, just to protect the image I've built? Because on this path, the final enemy isn't ignorance. It's pretending you no longer have any. The death of growth is not failure, it's pride, but it's rebirth. Its resurrection starts with one simple act, becoming the student again, quietly, privately, bravely. You are not late, you are not behind.